Crowder. Prove to me that members of one percenter clubs are all criminals. Prove it to me. Show me the proof. Show me what you got.
Got me falling right.
And welcome to the show. It is hump day. Hopefully you all are getting some hump out there. We have a pretty packed show today. We're going to be doing an interview in a couple minutes. And also, if you just seen the promo, China Doll is going to have her own show, China Chat, premieres this Sunday at 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I already seen her do the pre-record video, and it was a great video. So hopefully she'll get some subscribers, some watchers, and if she does over the next couple weeks, we will let her go live. That way you guys can call in and talk and all that good stuff and have her own radio show. First, we have a huge victory for the 8th Amendment. Today, the Supreme Court has ruled unanimously against excessive civil forfeiture, asset forfeiture. Take a look at this real quick.
Unanimously decided that states and local governments can't impose excessive fines in order to boost revenue. It stems from a case involving an Indiana man arrested on a drug dealing charge. Police seized Tyson Tim's Land Rover, saying it was part of the crime. The maximum penalty for the offense was $10,000, but the car was worth $42,000. Timms argued the seizure was disproportionate and excessive. Wednesday's ruling sets a precedent that the 8th Amendment's ban on excessive fines does in fact apply to states and local municipalities. That means they'll have a property value limit on what they can seize. That limit already applies at the federal level. Advocates of the ruling hope it'll curb the practice of what they feel are excessive seizures. According to the American Bar Association, excessive fines and fees, quote, disproportionately harm the millions of Americans who cannot afford to pay them. The decision also marked Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's first opinion since her recovery from recent lung surgery.
That's awesome, ain't it? And how does that affect motorcycle clubs and the bikers at that? Well, they can no longer try to fund their police departments, their municipalities off of asset forfeiture that is extreme. So say you got a case like this where the maximum fine is $10,000. The city, state, federal government cannot turn around and try to get a $40,000 or $50,000 vehicle off you or anything in excess of that $10,000. Huge victory. That is just huge, especially with a unanimous Supreme Court. Now civil asset forfeiture laws, like Senator Rand Paul was talking about, they really don't have to be made because the ruling's there. So it's freaking huge, man. So congratulations to all. Let's get into our interview. Let's give old boy a call. Old schooler coming up right here.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing? This is Hollywood with Motorcycle Madhouse. You're live on air, buddy.
Hey, great.
Hey, what's your name so we can get it out there to everybody?
All right, my name is Ralph Elrod, but everybody calls me Teach, like a school teacher.
Rock on, Teach. What are we going to be discussing today? I was just going over the great news that we got out of the Supreme Court on the 8th Amendment, where they limit asset forfeiture with the states and all that stuff. So that was great news right now.
I saw that tonight. That is great news.
You know,
hold them back a little bit.
Yeah, hold them back a little bit where they can't go over there and rape you over the coals. They can only take the maximum of the fine, which is huge for everybody, and that's going to be great for motorcycle clubs and bikers alike.
Yes, individually, it's going to be great. It'll help.
Rock and roll. Now,
well, I've written a...
I was just going to introduce you. Teach has written a book. Go ahead, Teach.
My book is, this is my second book. It's called It Will Get Tough, Cops and Bikers. I just decided when I got ready to write my first book that if we don't write down our history ourselves and put down the truth about how life has been as we've been growing up, history's not going to remember anything except the sons of malarkey. I just
Right?
couldn't abide that.
Exactly,
So
sons of malarkey. I love it. Go ahead.
Well, you know. And so I wrote this second book. The first one was a fun read about how things were back in the 70s when we were just getting started. This second book is more about the realities of the toughness that you have to be able to stay in this lifestyle. Us old guys, and the younger ones too, because we've all done this together, we've actually created a culture. We've created the motorcycle culture and the club culture that was never here before. And in the last 60 or 70 years here, we've built this culture we all live in.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that if we don't write down our history, even the independent writers, the Christian writers, we all have stories about what it was like on our bikes, and it's nothing like, you know, the Sons of Malarkey was with all the illegal crap that they were pulling. And I felt like after the police watch all that stuff on television, they start to believe it, and it starts to flow out onto the street and affect us through this stupid stuff they have. So,
Right. Well, it actually did. It actually did affect us, like you were talking about, because they used it in the Mongol patch trial.
Exactly, and you know they're coming after all of us this year. This is going to be a bad year. I really feel that. I've been a member of, this is my 50th year in the Barron's Motorcycle Club out Salt Lake. I've seen a lot in those years. I've seen the bikes change, and I've seen the people change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The world has moved on, and we've changed a lot over the years. But we all stick together, and if we stick together, we can get some things done, like this motorcycle profiling that needs to be stopped. If we all stick together, we have a chance of doing something on that. If we don't stick together, there's no chance. Back in the 70s, they had a law, or a regulation actually, that said if you didn't have a helmet law in your state, they would withhold 10% of your federal highway fund. So every state in the union had a helmet law except for three: Illinois, Utah, and California. Utah had a part-time law, over 35 mile an hour zone everywhere. So it was real weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I was president of the club in Salt Lake, so we fought it, and we fought it hard. And we organized a protest in Washington, D.C. I got to lead the pack. Actually, a little Vespa led the pack with a Park Service employee on it. I followed him. But there was 500 or 600 bikes, or 400 or 500 bikes, whatever. There was a lot of motorcycles, and it worked. It passed the House of Representatives, and then we went to D.C. and did our protest. We surrounded the Capitol building of the United States, too deep in Harley-Davidson. The headlines from the Washington Post that next day said, hundreds of bearded, bedraggled, beer-swigging motorcyclists from around the nation encircled the U.S. Capitol and the White House yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it got rid of it. We beat that and got rid of them. Within a year, 21 states had repealed their helmet law, and now 27 don't have helmet laws. We did that because we stuck together. We need to stick together now.
Well, it's the most important now. Holy cow, is it most important now?
It's really important. I mean, I was at a National Confederation of Clubs meeting last fall in Seattle. There were Christian clubs, there were women's clubs, there were black clubs, there were 1% clubs. You name it, all the clubs were there, and they all got along enough to talk about this and want to fight it. So, you know, I think there's something there that we need to spend some time on.
Right.
Being together, work on being together.
Now, you talk about being in the club scene for over 50 years. I know the club scene probably when you started out is a lot different than it is now. And what you're talking, back then it wasn't all the technology that we have today and Big Brother up your ass with all these cameras and stuff. So what you're saying is real important. It's time to get together, not only clubbers, but the independent biker as well and get in this fight.
Exactly. We all live this life. We all are part of this culture. And if we all don't stand together, we'll all fall. That's just the way I feel about it. So,
Well, exactly. And later on in the show, I'll actually be bringing up a video of some of the cops talking over in Oz, over in Australia, with non-consortium laws and stuff like that. That, you know what? Just because that's Australia does not mean they can't do some crap like that over here. Look at Rico, for example. That was
Exactly.
originally intended for the outfit and the syndicate, and now it's being used on bikers. You don't know what these people can pop up with.
yeah, and I don't even understand their thinking. They just immediately hate us because we're look so different to them. I mean, back in the day, you talked about how things were different. If you got in the bar and you had a disagreement with a guy, you might go out back and throw a few fisticuffs and things would be all right. If you throw a punch these days, you got to go to that anger management class for a year or something like that. I'd just soon go to jail, for goodness sake.
Right? Yeah, they do throw all kinds of different stuff. You can get an assault and battery and give you 5 years. But what's worse about it is you would have the fisticuffs, and I remember the old timers that raised me and stuff. They said, "Yeah, we go have a beer right afterwards." Now you got some people that actually run to the cops and tell them. I can't believe it.
You have a lot like that. So, well, I tell you, after going through, I got accused of murder 3 times. They always found the right person, but because of being the president of the club in the 70s, they just always looked right at me, and they all, like one guy was a serial killer. He was the same guy that shot and crippled Larry Flynn, Joseph Paul Franklin. He shot my daughter and killed 2 of the guys that her and her girlfriend were jogging around the park with. And I got accused of that, until of course, they found the right guy and they executed him. But it was always just at me all the time. I finally decided that maybe I should get out of Utah, and I bought 40 acres and moved to Montana. Me and Johnny each got some land, and I lived in a teepee that the Cossacks Motorcycle Club up here in Montana gave me to use. And so I lived in a teepee for a year while I built my cabin. Us bikers can do anything, and if we stick together, we can beat these guys. So that's a lot about what my book is written about, of fighting these guys on whatever level we've had to fight them with, whether it's like our club did a lot of stuff in the legislature, fighting the helmet laws and doing that thing in Washington, D.C. to get rid of it, and it worked. Mm-hmm. We fought hard for all of that. And I wrote about that in the book, but I also wrote about the difference in the bikes of the era and now, and how things have changed. And I've spent quite a bit of time on policies of the police and how those have changed, and how the law enforcement have made it really tough on us. From the time I was born, it seems like I've had trouble with the police. I was born in West Texas way back in '43. I'm an old guy. And my grandfather only came to see me once. I understand I'm a little like him. He was a barroom brawler and everything. The local sheriff pistol whipped him to death in a bar and dumped his body on our front lawn. He was found the next day. So it seems like
Yeah, those are the old days
I've
right
not
there. Holy shit.
yeah, that was, so it's just the way it was. But I also remember, and I wrote about in 1970, the Sundowners and the Barons went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. We, had a good time partying in the town. A few of the guys got laid, I'm sure. It was a nice time. At 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning, the sheriff had deputized a bunch of local ranchers, and they all woke us up. We were asleep beside our bikes in the park. They stuck shotguns to our head and woke us up and ran us out of town, in the middle of the morning. It's still dark.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, those were times I always preach it. Those were the times when being a biker wasn't cool.
No, it wasn't cool at all. And we've had to fight through this forever, and it's we're still going, and it gets better all the time. But with the stuff that they're pushing at us right now, it just it just gets worse all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to mention that after, like I said, the Barons, spend a lot of time in the legal end of things, fighting things in the courts and in the legislatures. But out on the coast, clubs that we party with and we're friends with, they didn't have it quite so easy. The Slow Pitcher Tavern riot in Portland, Oregon being a perfect example. How the police went in and beat, they were like, there was no reason other than the bikers were in this bar listening to the music. They came in and beat them, 5 and 6 cops to a biker, and they'd hold them by the hair and by each arm and by the legs, and then the other one would beat them with the clubs. Mm-hmm. It's all documented. A lot of cops got in trouble over it. Some of the same cops in the same town in Portland, after they had done that, they were, the Brother Speed fought them and ended up fighting them in court and came out okay in the court, but they were still beat and bloody and in bad shape from everything that happened. And then those same cops, a little later, busted into there have been a lot of stories about this bad squad of narcotics officers, and they broke into the clubhouse of the Outsiders, wouldn't say who the guy wouldn't identify himself. He was busting the front door in. He had a mask on and was dressed all shabby, wouldn't say who he was. When he busted through the door, my friend Pigpen shot him between the eyebrows with a 16 gauge. He ended up having to do 14 months killing that cop before all the rest of them got in a lot of trouble. I go into depth on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, what you're speaking is some of the stuff that I kind of preach to the New Jacks and stuff. They're actually enjoying the lifestyle to a point where you guys paid for it. You paid for it in blood, sweat, and tears. And you get a lot of these New Jacks that come up to you say about protocol. Why should we do this? Why should we do that? Well, it's tradition. There's reasons why it was set up. The old graybeards, they're the ones who paid for it, and you're enjoying it now, Cupcake, because of what they did. Because, again, it wasn't cool to be a biker back then. Cops would throw you on the mud and freaking beat your brains in because you were just a biker.
We had an incident where we had one of our brothers was just about to the clubhouse, and the cops turned the lights on him, and he knew he was going to get beat up if they pulled him over. So he just waved them to follow him, and he went to block down to the clubhouse. Well, as he pulled into the gate to park his bike, this police officer who was following him called in before he ever got to the clubhouse, "Officer down." And then he crashed his bike into all the bikes in front of the clubhouse.
Oh.
Well,
that don't surprise me with one of them.
Yeah, and it was a big downright brawl. The judge about later we've been going through a bunch of court dates, and the judge told us, says, all right, here's the deal. I want you two groups to stay away from you Barons, stay the hell away from these cops for at least a month, and you cops leave these Barons alone for at least a month. See if we can get over it. You don't get that kind of reaction too often these days.
Right? Exactly. Now, on the show, I was always used when I was coming up in the early 90s that we always had a line. It was always cops on one side, bikers on the other. We never intermingled. What do you think about these cops wearing freaking patches and going out acting like us now? They hate us, during the job, but all of a sudden...
People like the Iron Order. People like the Iron Order that killed Victor Mendoza, the Mongol there in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. These guys are wannabes, for our lifestyle. I don't get it at all. When they shot, one of them shot, they can get away with anything because all they have to say is, I was in fear of my life. And since they're cops and they're never off duty, they automatically win. When they killed Nasty from the Black Pistons, one of them shot him right in the face, and then they stood around talking. And one of the guys that was standing there had been trained as a medic in the Army. He was trained to deal with gunshots. He never even bothered to do anything to help Nasty, and I don't even know if he looked at him. He was there. A week later, he came out on his Facebook with a T-shirt that said, "Shoot him, be aggressive, shoot him in the face."
Oh, man, what a fucking asshole.
That gives you a pretty good idea of where the cop clubs, the law enforcement clubs are coming from, if that's the kind of attitude they have.
Right. Well, the biggest thing I never could understand,
my blood pressure
I can't blame you. One of the biggest things I could never understand is why a civilian club would dare to let a cop in their freaking club, because I'm always saying, wait a second, man, this cop is never going to be loyal to you or your patch. What are you, freaking crazy? They'll turn on you in a heartbeat.
Exactly. We can show a million different episodes of that happening. So
now I actually had a question from the chat room for you from Ant down in Florida. She asked, "What do you think of cops wearing 1% tats?"
I think they ought to have their ass kicked.
I love it.
Pulled on, ripped on, but that just because I believe that don't mean that anybody can do it. I think it's ridiculous. If they're going to wear a 1% patch, then they need to play by the same rules. We can play by the same rules too.
Right. Exactly.
But that isn't going to happen. They're gonna if they're a 1% patch and somebody smacked one of them, what would happen? Everybody would go to jail. They'd pull our patches. They'd say, like they're trying to do to the Mongols right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, the biggest thing with the Mongols is we all got to get the hashtag Save the Patch out there, because it don't only have to do with the Mongols. Once they get something like that, they're going to go on to the next club, and then eventually, if you're a member of the Elks or the Moose, and somebody does something criminal in there, the government can come and say, "Oh, you're a criminal. We can take this." It's going to get out of hand.
Yeah, it just gives them more power to become absolute.
And what's scary is the citizens are actually giving them that power.
Yeah, well, they see all this stupid stuff like the Sons of Malarkey on television, where people are selling guns and selling women and traveling all over. I've never seen that happen with any club I know, and I've been around. I've seen a lot.
Right.
It's just a bunch of bull.
Well, their main character, Jax, was a serial killer. You're to tell me that they wouldn't have caught him after one or two of those hits?
Exactly. I only watched that show one time, so I don't know I don't know exactly all the plot lines.
Right. Now, you talk about in your book how clubs have to come together in these specific times. Do you think that is happening right now? Do you think clubs see how serious it really is with the profiling, especially
I
down
do.
in Texas?
I do think everybody realizes it. I talked to one of the banditos who happened to be he lived in Georgia at the time whenever Waco happened. And I wrote intently about Waco. But he calls one of his other presidents, chapter president in San Antonio, and says, "I'll come out and help you with everything," because he knew because of the bust it was going to be a mess. So he just left a message for him because it didn't get an answer. And "I'll be on an airplane at such and such time." He flies into San Antonio. He said, as he's coasting up to the terminal, he thought he heard, just before the front door opened, he thought he heard the back door open, but he was looking towards the front. He paid no attention. All of a sudden, he heard all the breathing change behind him. Looked behind him, and the marshal has his 45 out, pointed at his head, and two guys had come in the back door with SWAT, dressed like SWAT team members and had AR-15s pointed at him. And they took him off the airplane, interviewed him, or questioned him for 4.5 hours, and then let him go. What the hell? I don't understand. I just don't understand that.
I don't
how
either.
they can get away with that.
Right.
I don't understand how they can get away with it, but they do. And if we don't, I noticed when I went to the NCLC meeting in the national meeting in Seattle last September, there were clubs there that I've never been around before, but all the big 1% clubs were there. A lot of Christian clubs, women's clubs, black clubs. Then there was no problem. There were people standing up giving classes on how you need to, react when things happen to your club or the people in your club, how the cops are going to react. We have lawyers at all the things because if we didn't have a lawyer, they'd bust us for conspiracy. You know how that would go.
Exactly.
So I see the clubs starting to work together. I was in a room with clubs that people talk about all the time that are, they think are wanting to kill each other all the time. But in the COC meetings, I see these clubs starting to work together more than I've noticed over the years before. So things are changing. They're never, I don't know, never, but they're not, taking showers together, but they're getting along and they're working against a common enemy.
Right, and that's one of the biggest enemy we have.
Going big time after.
Right.
Yes.
It's going balls after the biker community, especially the motorcycle club community. And I get into arguments all the time with, I call them Leo pole suckers, because they're out saying, well, NCOM this or NCOM this, it's a big farce. I was like, you dumbasses, it's the motorcycle clubs that have always been on the forefront for bikers' rights, for your rights. And those are the ones that really get me going, is those Leo bull suckers. Because, again, when I was going through, and I know when you were going through, we never associated with cops. We couldn't care less about them. Bikers were for us, and, they were on that other side. I don't understand the new generation's thinking where they think it's all right for a cop to be around them.
Yeah, I don't either. It's they're always going to be looking to further their own career.
Right. Well, it was their
prosecutors,
Right. Well, it's their job to bust us and our job to not get busted. That's what I used to tell people all the time.
Back in the 70s, I always considered it a game, their side against our side. They were trying to get us for illegal lane change or some stupid thing. And now things have changed so much because the street gangs and the crotch rockets and the heavy drug dealing going on through the street gangs. And I've noticed that all the clubs aren't anything like that anymore. People all have, I know in our club, everybody's got jobs. If you want to ride these new bikes, you better have money. I mean, they're expensive, and to keep them running is expensive, and to go on a long ride, it all costs a lot of money.
Right. So, well, I always say that all the time. If they're such gangsters, well, why are they having a hard time paying $100 a month in dues? That's one of my favorite arguments to use against these people. Because when I was in the club, it was like, man, people were hurting to pay some club dues. And if this is supposedly going on like Leo says, you're in fantasy land.
Yes, I agree. Well,
rock and roll. So
I think that if we just stick together, and that's hard for a lot of these people. Don't want anything to do with us. Other guys on motorcycles, they believe the old fantasies about us, the patch holders, are so bad. In the country today, there's about 44,000 outlaw bikers. That's all, 44,000. And only 2% of those are felons.
Right.
And on the other hand, 11 cops a day get busted for felonies.
Exactly.
So I wonder what the percentage is for cops and ex-cops. How many of them, percentage-wise, are felons?
Right.
I would guess that 11 a day getting busted is pretty high.
Right. And you ever notice, because with the biker news section, I always look at the cops getting busted. It's always for a sex crime. It's like, do you guys got any balls? Can you get a real old lady? Is that why you're pissed at bikers? Because we get the hot stuff and you're slumped with the pigs? I don't know.
I know of 2 women in Salt Lake City, this is a while back now, that were pulled over. They both were good-looking women. They had good jobs. They had hot cars they were driving. One was driving a Corvette and the other a hot fixed-up Mustang. And they were pulled over on the freeway and strip searched on the side of the freeway.
Damn. Oh, damn.
For speeding. And when one of them's boyfriend went to the police, they said, you stay the hell out of here. You come back, we'll pull her in, and we'll strip search the hell out of her here at the station.
Man, that's messed up.
It's hard to have respect for people when you are going through things like that. I don't believe that all cops are bad. I think it's a small percentage. But the ones that do this crap, it is always sex crimes. Out of the 11, it's something like 6 or 7 of them are all sex crimes.
Right.
And, abuse and all of that.
Right.
They have key words, so you don't know exactly what happened, but rape is pretty predominant in that list.
Right.
So I have a hard time respecting some police officers. Now, living up here in Montana, and I was a firefighter when I was going to college, paid firefighter. So I became a volunteer firefighter here in our volunteer department, and ended up being the fire chief for 6 years, and an EMT and all of that. And our fire warden is the sheriff, the elected sheriff. Mm-hmm. Well, over the years, I've gotten to know, him, and he's on the front of my book, actually, his back, and with his hand on the gun, and you can see me between the elbow and his body. And the name of the book, of course, It Will Get Tough, shows that picture. And I understand him enough that when I called him and asked him if he'd post the picture, he says, well, I'm busy out of town for a week or two taking a class. He says, but give one of the deputies. All the deputies were all afraid to do it. I had to wait till he came back in town have him pose for me.
Right.
So why are they afraid of me? You know?
Right.
It's these stupid movies and stupid television shows, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
can remember us shutting down a movie theater in Salt Lake. They had two of those movies showing, double feature. Same bunch of actors, and one of them, the head guy was, or the big shot was the star, or the star was a bad guy, and the next one he was the good guy, and they were just stupid, terrible ones. And I told the manager, I said, you're not going to show these again. These shows, they're just too, I just won't stand for it. He goes, oh no, we're a big company, and the bosses up, wherever they are, Hollywood, we're booked here for another 3 days, and they're booked here for another 3 days. I said, I'll have a bunch of people doing a line out in front, and there won't be anybody crosses that picket line. I'll guarantee you, we're shutting these movies down. And he believed me, and they didn't show the movie anymore. But if we don't stand up for big things and little things combined, they'll get their way.
Rock on.
I fight them on every damn little thing, big thing, whatever. When they step out of line, if we don't stand up and say something, they'll get away with it.
Right, exactly. Now, what's the books called, and where can you get them?
Okay, my first book was called Kickstart: Memories of an Outlaw Biker, and my second one is It Will Get Tough: Cops and Bikers, and you can get them on Amazon. Is probably the easiest way. You can get them, at the regular bookstores, but mostly they have to order them if you do that.
Right.
But you can get them pretty quick on Amazon.
Rock and roll,
or you
man.
can look it up on Friesen Press. Now, Keith Ball wrote the foreword for me on this book, It Will Get Tough. He did a great job. Keith, having been the editor of Easy Rider for like 25 years, is an old friend. And so, if you don't mind, I'd like to read just a short paragraph, the final paragraph in his forward, if we could do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was talking about all the agencies and how they try, in the courts, and how they try to restrict us. As many of these restrictions comes from fear and weakness. What often starts with the best intentions feeds into political structure and goes bad. Often the agency or even the government body needs to be indicted, arrested, their homes and wealth confiscated, while being forced to justify their existence. I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom is a balancing factor, and as you witness on every page, freedom is the balancing factor as you witness on every page of this memoir, Keith Ball.
Rock on, man.
I think that's what this book is about, is freedom. And Keith agreed. I felt very privileged that he wrote the foreword for me.
Rock on, man.
I think every biker in the country needs to read this, especially the young guys. They need to read these books. Most of the old guys got it figured out by now.
Right.
But the younger guys need to have a look at what it was like and what caused us to be in the position we're in today.
Rock and roll, man. Well, you know what, Teach?
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You're sticking to it, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show and, talking about your experiences, talking about the books. I'd love to have you on again someday, and really appreciate what you did for the lifestyle, especially going through what you guys have done. And special shout out to the Barron MC and National Confederation of Clubs and the Council, everybody who's fighting for us right now. You guys are awesome. I love listening to the Graybeards. Let me tell you, you guys are awesome, man. And you give us a way forward just by looking at the past, what we had to go through. But I really appreciate having you on the show, buddy.
I sent you a book. You'll get it in the next few days, I'm sure. So I'll give you a call later, and maybe we can get together again in a few months after you've had a chance to read the book.
Rock and roll, man. I'll be down in Orlando at the convention. If you're going to be down that way, I'll see you there. If not, maybe in Boston.
I tell you what, it'll take a team of wild horses to get me on the other side of the Mississippi River. I like the West a lot. I like the wide open riding. So maybe I'll be over to the east, but it'll take a lot to get me over there.
Rock on, man. As soon as I get the book, I'll start promoting it for you and get the word out.
Thanks, Hollywood. You guys take care.
You too, buddy. Man, I love the Graybeards, don't you? Those are the guys that I really talk about all the time, the Vietnam era guys that really gave us, wow, what we got today. By the way, thanks for that super chat, Dan. I got to go up in there and see what your message you want me to say. 81 Burdu supporter in the house, Dan says. Yeah, what do you guys think about the Graybeard? Some awesome stuff. Them guys got so much knowledge, it's unreal. But let me play this quick video for you of what is going on worldwide right now.
Come for Mother's Day fucking dinner or whatever. Now the cops are over here fucking hassling the manager. Here we are with Jewel and Jade over here.
I think I'm probably selling this more, that's why I was wondering.
And these two fucking dickheads over here should just learn how to go fuck their hats, eh? Yeah. Oh yeah.
Out of sight, but not out of mind. The Rapid Action and Patrol Squad is carrying out a regular routine door knock at a bikie's house. He's not in trouble. This is how police are keeping tabs on them.
We know who you are. We know where you live. We know what you're doing. And if you're breaking the law, we're going to come knocking.
The state's tough laws have been in place since the infamous Broadbeach bikie brawl in 2013. Now gang members are banned from wearing club colours in public.
Bikies have gone. They're not welcome back. And if they do come back, they'll be targeted and arrested.
But this brutal broad daylight bashing involving 4 men at Palm Beach sparked fears of a bikie resurgence. The laws also ban them from consorting with 2 or more offenders after a warning. Figures obtained by the opposition reveal there were hundreds of warnings in the state last financial year, but no convictions.
They get the preemptive warning, they stop, they don't commit an offence, so they're not arrested.
It's estimated 700 patch members are living in Queensland, 200 on the Gold Coast. The Assistant Commissioner says police are watching.
And if you play up, you'll get locked up.
This is what freedom looks like. We've got 200 plus bikes all coming together to do a protest ride down Las Vegas Boulevard to protest the profiling of bikers by police. Being a biker is not illegal and is not a reason to stop us and take time out of our day to try to get information or try to figure out some reason to detain us. We're all coming together. We are trying to put forward legislation at the legislative session in Nevada this year, and we're coming strong. Motorcycle profiling is wrong, and we're here to say it loud. We're here to come together right down the Las Vegas Strip. Thank you so much for all of your support.
And there you go. That right now, the phone lines are open if you want to go ahead and call in. But the lines are drawn worldwide. You got your Leo, you got the bikers on one side, and it's going to be to a point where you're going to have to choose one way or another if you want to get into this fight and preserve not only your constitutional rights, but your rights to be a biker, for Christ's sake. Do you want to fight? Are you going to get in the fight? Just like the Graybeard that called in earlier. They got out there, they fought them. They're still fighting them. Now it's up to you. Are you going to get in the fight? You got to ask yourself that, those that sit back and let others do the fighting for them, what kind of, image are you going to give yourself? What kind of pride do you have where you have to have others fight for you? That ain't a biker. A biker goes out there and does his thing, man. He speaks his mind. He fights for what he thinks is right. That is what is up now. Go out there, join ABATE, join MRO, go out there and support the Confederation of Clubs, the Council of Clubs. If you ever get pulled over or you harassed, go fill out that National Motorcycle Profiling Survey and get it done. That's a way of fighting back. Get involved. Go join. But right now, again, the phone lines are open, 847-957-1656. This Sunday, China Doll has her premiere by herself, her own show. It's called China Chat, where she talks about a couple subjects here and there. It's not going to all be biker guys and gals. It's going to be everyday life and stuff like that. Give the channel a nice well-rounded type of deal. And also, we got dealership undercover coming. I'm about to shoot our first undercover where we go in, check out a dealership, see how their customer service is, see how the knowledge of the bikes are, and really get in their asses, if you know what I mean. But with that, I guess we have no callers, so it was a great program. Tomorrow we have Good Time Charlie on the interview I did with him. Actually was going to have it on today, but we had Barron on, or the Teach from the Barron's MC on, talk a bit about motorcycle profiling. And this is something that over here, because everybody knows I'm an advocate for not only bikers, but for motorcycles clubs' rights and all that stuff. So you'll hear a lot about profiling because it's a huge issue. And again, that Supreme Court decision today, go read up on it. I'll have it on Insane Throttle Biker News tomorrow at HarleyLiberty.com, and you'll see what the case was all about, why it was decided the way it was, and why it is beneficial for us in the biker community or American citizens. We do not need our government freaking making money off of its citizens illegally. With that, I'll talk to you later. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and see you tomorrow, man. Have a good hump day. Hope you get a piece. Thanks for watching Motorcycle Madhouse Live. We're on Monday through Friday from 7 to 7:30. Check out some of these videos of our archives. Get to know us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We appreciate all your support. We'll see you next time. Yeah.